Welcome to Mondays with Michelle, where every week we share real stories of hope, healing, and faith. I'm Michelle, and together we'll meet incredible people whose journeys will encourage your heart and inspire your walk with Christ. I'm so glad you decided to spend your Monday with me, and I hope this week's episode is the fuel you need to help you begin your week. Welcome back to Mondays with Michelle. Another Monday that we can be together and hear an inspiring story. I'm so glad that you joined us today. So our guest, we have Lindsay with us today. And I will tell you, Lindsay was able to email me. In every episode, I say, please email mondayswithmichelle2911@gmail if you have a story you would like to share. And that's how Lindsay got a hold of me. So if anyone else out there is listening and thinks, I really want to share my story, please email me. I would love to get your email and love for you to share. But Lindsay is going to share today. So go ahead and introduce yourself, Lindsay.
I am a 45-year-old mother of 2 adult children. I have a 26-year-old daughter and a 22-year-old son. Single mom, married, divorced. I am a teacher. Right now I teach special education students, and I have been doing that this is year 17 for me. So that's just a little bit about me.
All right. And she has a lot of things that have happened in her life that she's going to share. So I'm sure a lot of you today will be able to relate with some part of her story. Let's start your story, Lindsay. I guess, I don't know. Where do you want to start it? When you were a child, maybe?
Yeah, that's probably the best.
Okay.
So I grew up in a household of 4. Mom, dad, and a younger sister. My sister is 5 years younger than me. At the age of 11, my parents divorced. So we grew up in a church. We grew up going on Sundays. It was expectation. We just went every Sunday as a family. Continued that practice once my parents split up. My dad obtained custody of me. My mother obtained custody of my sister. So in the process of that, still going to church, being raised by my dad, still seeing my mom and my sister, I heard a lot of negative things surrounding my mom and the separation and the divorce. I'm very angry at my mom, couldn't understand what happened, blamed her for a lot of things just because those are the things that I heard. Hindsight's 2020. As you get older, you realize there are lots of missing pieces to that. So during the separation and the divorce, I definitely took a turn down the wrong path. Hung out with the wrong crowd, started drinking, started using drugs, just the whole party life, like 8th, 9th, 10th grade, 11th grade, kind of semi-settling down. Senior year, got a job, kind of settled out, managed to leave those things kind of to the side. Met who would then be my husband. We got married. I got married at the age of 18 and had our daughter at 19. Pretty quickly into the marriage, I realized things just weren't quite right. Definitely cared about him. He cared about me. Things started to change. He would go out and not necessarily come home on time. There were conversations that were happening behind my back with other people. There was a pornography addiction. So we continued through married life. The expectation was growing up in church, not going to get divorced, definitely not going to do this to my children. He came from a broken household. I came from a broken household. We're definitely going to stick this out. We're going to work it out. This divorce is not an option. A few years later, had my son, and things just kind of escalated over those 18 years is what we were married. Towards the end of our relationship, the last few years, things were very, very touch and go. A lot of verbal abuse. Sometimes it would get physical. My daughter got a lot of flack from my husband, her father. She really couldn't do a whole lot that was right in his eyes. My son, on the other hand, didn't really have a whole lot of consequences. He was the daddy's boy, fishing, hunting, that kind of thing. So my daughter had some ups and downs, some major ups and downs with behaviors and things like that, just striving for attention. Also, she was able to witness some of the abuse and the narcissism that her father was doing to me and to her as well. At a certain point, my husband decided he was going to start using the steroid injections to build muscle, weight, and gain, Working out in the gym was a big thing for him. Didn't really see the change in the pattern. A lot of other people could see it. Hindsight's 2020. You go back and you look at all the things and you think, wow, why did I miss those things? Very much roid rage towards the end of the marriage. At one point, they had just kind of taken over his whole being, had a major breakdown, was going to kill the whole family at one point. And that was on a Mother's Day. I remember calling my mom and just saying, I don't know what I've done wrong. I don't know what's going on. I don't know, what are we supposed to do? And she said, just get in the car, come over here. Let's just try to get through the day. He needs to get some help. Unbeknownst to me, that's the roid rage issue, because he was doing the steroid injections behind my back. In the
So that
process
can
of
make
all of
you,
that,
sorry, so that can, using those can kind of make you just go out of your mind?
correct, because you're introducing those things on a regular basis, in addition to, your normal hormones and things like that. And so these steroids were going into his system, and just, he really truly wasn't thinking straight. In addition to, his normal narcissistic behaviors as well. In the midst of the roid rage and the steroid use, there was a lot of infidelity. So I knew about some of those things that were going on, still tried to make the marriage work. It was just ingrained in me. Okay, I can't walk out of my marriage. This is who I am. This is my identity. From the outside looking in, most people thought we had the perfect marriage. Some of the family members knew. They would see some of the signs of the abuse and witness some of the screaming and the yelling and the throwing things and the tantrums. And we can do this. We have a family vacation coming up. We're going to do this. Confronted him about one of the females that I knew about. And he was like, I'm not going to do this anymore with her. We're going to move on. So we go on a family vacation to the beach with my mom and my sister, my brother-in-law, my nieces. Both of my children were there. My son had a friend. First day at the beach, my daughter catches my husband cheating. He was on the phone with this other female, texting her, talking to her. It just kind of blew up at that point. So drove him home, said, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm done. Go back to the beach with my family. We pretend like nothing's wrong for the rest of the family. My mom and my sister knew. Of course, my daughter knew. We were going to make the best of this vacation. We get back home, and this other female had been in my home. This other female had gone on our boat. And he was just like, I'm just done. I don't think I love you anymore. I'm done. And that was a harsh reality. We went through counseling. I begged, I pleaded. What can we do? Counseling was to no avail. The divorce separation was very, very, very tough. A lot of back and forth, a lot of aggressiveness from him, saying he hadn't done these things, and that I was this and that, and just a lot of back and forth.
When you said you were trying and it was 18 years and you were counseling or whatever, and now I teach divorce care and I went through it, and I had to realize this because I was like you, I was trying. It takes two. So you can do whatever you can do, and you can do this or that, but it takes both of you working to make it work.
Right.
So you tried.
I tried. Yeah, and that's what I learned, since that point, is I gave everything into that marriage to make it work. I did the counseling. I gave 150%. But ultimately, to no avail, he was done. And I don't know whether part of that is the steroids he was taking. Is it partially that just the narcissistic behaviors that he had? At one point, the doctors had mentioned to him bipolar. There were lots of different things that, took place. And looking back now, I can say, okay, I should have left a long time prior to that. However, I didn't want my children to go through what I had gone through, and also having my children in church and being in church all my life, just something that I really just didn't want to do. Divorce was out of the question. So we get separation and all that stuff. Things were very, very back and forth, back and forth. At a point during the separation, kind of fell away from going to church because I wasn't real sure what was kind of going on in my life, struggling with why are these things going on. And in the midst of that, I had a break-in my house. And I was home from work that day and was getting out of the shower, had my Alexa playing, and this said person broke into my home and beat me up pretty good and raped me. And in that moment, my life changed from anything that I think or thought could ever go wrong. Worse than a divorce, worse than losing children. My life was shattered. Living through that nightmare and going to the hospital, doing the rape kit was very, very hard. It was like being victimized all over again. Numerous times, the sheriff's department coming in and taking photos, and you have to relive it and make the statements and this and that. And so my rape kit still sits to this day in the sheriff's department, still not being done anything with at this point. Because it's my word against the person's word. Yet again, another way to feel victimized over again. And I was so angry and so numb and not knowing which way to turn. The doctors had put me on all of this medication for, the PTSD, the night terrors, the flashbacks, the depression. I mean, you name it, and I was on it. Just to function day to day and night to night. And in that, I blamed God. How could this person who loves us, this person who cares for us, this person who is all good, how could they allow this to happen to me? What did I do to deserve this kind of treatment and this kind of damage, this kind of trauma? So I was dating this guy and he liked to drink. And so then I started drinking, and it just became taking the pills to numb the pain, drinking alcohol to numb the pain. My drink of choice was whiskey. And if I could get my hands on it, I was going to drink it. I was to a point where I was drinking a fifth of it in a day, give or take. And thank goodness I was out on medical leave due to my attack.
That's what I was going to ask you. Were you working at this time? So you weren't working.
I was not working. I had to take a medical leave just because the fear of leaving the house, the fear of going anywhere outside of my home was, this is going to happen again. This person did not kill me is what I thought. He's going to come back and he's going to do it again. So eventually that kind of subsided. I was more comfortable with going out. And the drinking just picked up times 10. Yeah, it was just, I was a functioning alcoholic. Get up in the morning, drink, take the pills that the doctors had prescribed, also dabbled in some other drugs of choices. If I was around somebody, hey, let me try this. Just another way to numb the pain. So I still struggling with all of that. Okay, so in that time of the drinking and the drugs, I had gone out with who I thought were friends, spent the day on the lake, really, really, really drunk. Went to a bar after being on the lake and drinking all day. Got so drunk, passed out at one of the local bars. They drug me to a car and brought me home. They brought me to my house, drug me across my back deck, and left me laying. I have cameras at my house, so my daughter, who was at college at the time, was seeing me being drugged across the back porch and left. So I go back and I think, okay, those people were not my friends. Not only did they contribute to the alcohol abuse that day, but also passed out and then leave me. Yes, they brought me home to the safety of my home, but they left me on my back porch by myself, passed out. At some point, I managed to get up, stumble into the house, and I just remember thinking that day, I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to be an alcoholic. I don't want to be a drug addict. I don't want to take these prescription pills. I don't want to live life. Life is not worth living. And I went into the bathroom, found first bottle I could get my hands on of some sort of medication. Took the bottle. I reached out to the guy that I was talking to at the time and said, you know what? I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. Thank you for loving me. I'm done. He said, okay, I don't know what else to do for you. So hung up. He calls my mother. Thank God he called my mom. My mom came over here, came in the home, immediately sprang into action, took me to where I needed to be taken, get everything out of my system. She begged and pleaded, don't do the 72-hour hold. She's a school teacher. She's had a rape that's happened. We really just need to get her help. She needs to get help. She needs to detox. She needs the right medicine management. She needs therapy. So that's the route we took. The next morning we get up, and I remember her telling me, like, I got up every hour to come in and check on you to make sure once we made it home that, okay, is she still breathing? Is she still alive? And that's heartbreaking to think about at this point after the fact. How scary is it that you've seen your child, you walked in with your child after a rape, then you see your child who says, I don't want to live. And thank God she was there both of those times to pick me up. From there, we started with Monarch, and that's was a local place here in town. They did an extensive outpatient program with me. I had to report every day and do several hours of therapy online, in offices, speaking with a psychologist, speaking with alcoholic counseling, drug counseling, and really just refocusing, taking me off all those medications, working on the alcoholism, because at that point, then you're identified as an addict. And that's another sobering fact. Now I'm being called an addict. Okay. All right. I'm a domestic violence survivor. I have a rape survivor, and now I'm being called an alcoholic. I'm an addict. So those are all big pills to swallow. But over several months, I was able to get off of the drugs that they had me on for the most part, get off of the alcohol, met this man who I owe a big portion to of getting back into church. He was in NA, Narcotics Anonymous, and going to church, doing his meetings, really encouraged me to do the meetings, stick with the schedule, stick with the program, was really good for my sanity. And about a year into our relationship, he said, we're going to find a church. Not me. Not going to church. I love you, but nope, we're not going to church. Absolutely not. So we went back and forth for a while. I finally agreed, okay, I'll try it with you. It's not really going to work, but I'll go with you. So we church hopped a couple of churches. We pulled up to High Rock Church in Lexington, and it's parking lot service. And the pastor, Andy Clark, was preaching, and whatever God had laid on his heart that day spoke right to my soul. The things that he talked about how, God loves you. He loves the broken. He loves, the people who are struggling the most. Those are the people that he wants. Those are his disciples who he's trying to bring closer to him and change their lives. And we left that service, and I was like, you know what? I think I could maybe come back to this church. Let's try it again. So we came back the next Sunday, and again, Pastor Andy was on fire for the Lord. He talked this second sermon about how he had this past. He was homeless. He was incarcerated. He had an addiction past. He had all of these things, and he was sitting in a jail cell, and God said, all right, are you ready? Have you had enough? I'm here. And now he's a pastor. And so sitting there thinking of what he said in the sermon and the scriptures really, really spoke to me and said, okay, maybe God didn't give up on you. Maybe God was there, but I don't know. So continue to go to church. And after about a year and a half of being there, decided to rededicate my life and started over from that point forward. And at that point, through counseling, through Brandon, who I was dating at the time, and through amazing families that were supportive, my work family, after going back to work, everything just fell in line. And at that point, I knew, all right, God didn't leave me. God didn't allow those things to happen to me. There are bad people in the world, and those people don't define who you are. And that God was with me when my parents separated. He didn't leave me then. He didn't leave me through my crazy teenage years. He didn't leave me through my marriage. And he sure didn't leave me the day that I was attacked in the floor and raped. And if anything, God was watching to make sure that in the end, I made it through every one of those trials and tribulations to be on this side to help other people.
Yeah.
And through that, I have really changed my outlook on life since that has happened. Reading my Bible every day, surrounding myself with my work friends, especially. They are the most amazing group of women. My family, Brandon and I still are fantastic friends at this point. He still goes to the church I go to. My children have really grown. They're not as close with the Lord as I would like them to be, but they see how God has changed my life for the better. And they're open to going to church with me when they're home. And the biggest lesson that I can say from everything in my life is that God has a purpose for each and every one of us. And those struggles and those trials and those heartbreaking, devastating moments that take away everything are not meant to break us. They are meant to only empower us and make us stronger and to help other people. So with my story, I hope that somebody can find some solace in that and rely on friends and family and God especially, because sometimes what therapists recommend aren't necessarily the best, but to find the right therapist, find the right friends, the right family, and when you find that place, stick with that place and go with it and just trust where you're going to end up at.
Right. I mean, you went through so much, and now looking back, you've learned so much.
Right,
God was with you. It's you, he's always with us. It's we are the ones that walk away. He's with
right,
us. We just walk away. So and now you see that. So that's amazing. Now you've been through so much, and I don't know, there's so many people listening that they may suffer from alcohol or drugs. So how can you be a help? So what do you do even today to help you through getting over that? Is there any kind of tips or anything you can help someone out there that might be struggling with that?
right. Still to this day, what I do know as an addict is you're an addict from the time that you realize you're an addict. You're an addict for the rest of your life. And that's okay to say that. It was hard for me to say that at a certain point, but I know that because I have an addiction, I know what I can and can't do. I can't dabble with liquor at all. Physically, emotionally, everything about it just sends me right back to where I was. I tried that once and it did not work out good for me. And I said, oh, I can never do that again. Not even a sip, just cannot do it. But when I have those struggles and those instances where I'm like, it's a rough day, I've had a flashback, I've had night terrors, whatever it may be, and I have those moments of, okay, I really would like to pick up a bottle. Okay, I would really like to take some pills. I would really like to do whatever it is that I know now I can't do. I know I can reach out to my therapist. I have a therapist that still, I know how to reach her at all times. I can step back into some Zoom calls with her. I can go in and have a meeting with her. I can reach out to my family who are the ones who know, okay, I can call and say, hey, Mom, look, I'm really, really struggling right now. What can I do? And she says, all right, well, come on, let's go eat some dinner somewhere. My work friends that I work with, I can go in and say, today's a really hard day. I didn't sleep good last night. I need X, Y, and Z. And they're like, all right, let's say a little prayer this morning. Let's get things back on track. I can pick up the phone and call Brandon. I can pick up the phone and call my pastor. The ladies at church, I can pick up the phone and call. For me, having a set group of friends that they just know, when I call, they know I'm calling for a reason. And some of the things that I did learn for me, I tried to do a stint with the battered women's shelter as a thing of therapy for me, to go and see other people who could identify with me, and also maybe we could share things with. That to me didn't work out good in my favor. It almost made me have more flashbacks and putting myself right back in those shoes. So what I can say to people who are trying to get help, certain therapies may not work for you. NA groups may not work for you. AA groups may not work for you. You have to figure out what is the best for you. And once you find that groove and those people and the programs that work, stick with those and make sure you keep those constantly in your mindset off to the side, because you're going to have days that are rough. You're going to have days that make you question. And that's normal. And that took some understanding too, to understand that you're not broken because you still have those thoughts or those moments of weakness, but it's how you handle those moments of weakness and what you do during those times. Do you relapse, or do you hold strong and use the tools that you have in place?
Wow. Great words. Because you could easily, I'm not going to call somebody, I'm just going to take a sip, but
Right.
it's self-control that you're doing that. Now, there may be people out there that, I really need to find a therapist. Is there a certain way that you went about finding a therapist? Or
Right. For me, I reached out to Monarch. Monarch is still in Davidson County. Well, they might not be in Davidson County anymore, but I know they're in Winston-Salem, Forsyth County. Also, I reached out to Family Services. They have great support. They have therapists that are there. They can send you to other therapists if you have insurance. If you don't have insurance, they know which places can see you with whatever your circumstances are. I had a wonderful therapist who I seen that is at Family Services, and that's who I know I can pick up the phone and call at any time. But I know there are other places in Davidson County. Daymark is a great resource. They do inpatient and outpatient services. You can walk in there. Sometimes the wait is a little long, but you can walk in there and they'll see you that day if you're really, really struggling or have a need.
Okay. Yeah, that's great information. That's why I thought maybe since all this information, share it out, because somebody might need to hear exactly what you're saying today. And after we had talked, you had shared your story. I am actually reading a devotional book, and it's 100 Days of Believing Bigger. And today was day 100. So I'm at the last page, and it goes so right along with your story. So I have to share this. It says, "You're a messenger and a carrier of the Holy Spirit, the same power that conquered the grave. God didn't intend for us to simply read about miraculous encounters in a book of thousands of years old. God intends that we be the book, the living word, a living manifestation of God's unlimited abilities and promises. In Romans 9:17, God says, I raised you up for this very purpose, that I might display my power in you and that my name might be proclaimed in all the earth. You're a masterpiece and an essential component in God's master plan." So when I read that, you immediately came to my mind, and I'm like, I have to share this. So that's your verse. You're raised for this purpose. Now you're sharing your story and helping so many people from what you went through, helping others. So, yes, amazing testimony. I'm so glad you shared. And if you've listened today, I encourage you to comment on the podcast. Give a comment to Lindsay if anything you're going through or what you learned from her today. That would be very encouraging. But thank you all for joining us. I appreciate your time, and hopefully you were encouraged and you learned something today. And we will see you next Monday on Mondays with Michelle.
Bye.
Thank you for joining me for Mondays with Michelle. If today's story encouraged you, please share it with a friend. Be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. And if you have an inspirational story to share, or you would like to be a guest on the future episode, please send an email to mondayswithmichelle2911@gmail.com. See you next Monday.
Like and subscribe to Mondays with Michelle.